walking the park. I was at the Al Cafe when the sirens rang. And now we're never gonna meet, but I feel you anyway. I was trying to get out of town. You passed in an ambulance. We were in a trance. And now we're never gonna meet, but I feel you anyway. Yeah, I feel you today. Let them build a wall around us. I don't care, we're gonna tear it down. It's just bricks and ill intentions. They don't stand a chance, I'll tear it down. Signals you send, secrets you would never tell. People you've been, people you've been to your will. Darkness comes on and lingers past the dawn. Tension, it blends. Tension, tension, waiting. Let them build a wall around us. I don't care, I'm gonna tear it down. It's just bricks and ill intentions. They don't stand a chance, I'll tear it down. Tear it on down. You were just getting off work. I was down at the city stacks when the sky went black. And now we're never gonna meet, but I feel you anyway. Yeah, I feel you today. Let them build a wall. I don't care, I'm gonna tear it down. Oh, it's just bricks and ill intentions. They don't stand.
The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Cedar.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, March 29th, 2017. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the four-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, is the newness tightening around the money launderer in chief? Newness? Nooseness? Nope. And Republicans just sold your internet privacy for you. You will not be seeing a check. Will tax cuts be the next GOP Waterloo? And Trump rushes headlong into the climate apocalypse. Georgia, however, may bring some good news the next 2 weeks. And ICE continues its assault as Jeff Sessions threatens sanctuary cities. And as we speak, 2 Bridgegate accomplices are about to take a big fall for Chris Christie. 2 Christianist terror propagandists are charged in California with 14 felonies. And the North Carolina GOP will cost their state billions for their bigotry. All that and more on today's program, ladies and gentlemen. No guest today. Michael is sick. Maybe you guys recorded 2 Dope Boys in here last night. Is that right?
We did, yes.
And how much did Michael drink?
I wasn't monitoring.
I'm just curious because
so
I'm starting
closely.
to see if there's a pattern.
Well, there's
Yeah,
a
did it
pattern
get
that
too
alcohol
dope?
is consumed when we consume Dope Boys.
I'm sorry.
You
There's a
consume
pattern-
Dope Boys?
There's a pattern of
Alcohol being consumed when we record Dope Boys.
It just seems like whenever there's some type of function that involves drinking, the next day Michael has a mysterious medical problem.
Spooky.
Yeah, it's weird.
In his defense, which I say that a lot, but it's also a really long day. And Matt's like 5 years old, so he can handle it.
That's true.
Yeah, well, Michael's not that old. I went to the school meeting afterwards for my day. I was here. All right.
Did you complain about it later?
Of course
You're
I
gonna
did.
complain about it on the
Yes,
show later?
constantly.
Okay, great.
All right. I'm debating as to whether or not to start with the sort of speculatively, guilty pleasure on some level of the undoubtedly guilty but yet to be proven Commander-in-Chief, President of the United States, the Launderer-in-Chief, I think we're going to start to call him. Or go into this explanation as to why I think this next round of legislating by the Republicans is not going to work out terribly much better than their last. In fact, let's start there. But before we do, let's just start with this moment from Tuesday's House attempted vote. There is a law, I think I've mentioned this, from 1924 that had to do, I think, with either one of the, I think it was Mellon at that time, right? Wasn't he the Treasury Secretary? Or was it Carnegie? I believe it was Mellon. And where the House has the ability to pass legislation, essentially, to view any particular individual's tax forms and to make them public. The Democrats have been attempting to bring this bill up. I think this is now the 3rd or 4th time. This is going to be the Democrats' version of repealing Obamacare. The difference is, though, is that once they're in a position to pass it, they're actually going to pass it. It's not just pretend. And here is New Jersey Congressman Bill Pascrell speaking in favor of the resolution demanding President Trump's tax returns. Because much of what we're dealing with right now, I believe, and I think we've been saying this from very early on, I think is less about some type of Russian Manchurian candidate and more about some type of criminal enterprise. And here is Mr. Pascrell.
First look at it, and then we determine whether it should go public. What's wrong with that? That's our job. That's our responsibility. We cannot undermine our own responsibilities. We have a duty to do what has to be done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All time has expired. Does anyone else wish to strike the last word? Are there any amendments? If there are no amendments, I will now recognize Mr. Johnson for the purpose of offering a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee unfavorably report House Resolution 186 to the House of Representatives.
The question is on reporting House Resolution 186 unfavorably to the House. All those in favor of reporting the resolution unfavorably signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion is agreed to, and House Resolution 186 is ordered unfavorably reported to the House.
There you go. Now, you're probably asking yourself, wait, how is that possible? The ayes clearly did not sound as loud as the noes. The Republicans control the House. What you're seeing now in the august chamber of this committee hearing are basically an obstruction of justice. Basically, it's accomplices after the fact. And maybe, for all we know, ongoing. They're going to protect Donald Trump until it is not politically the right thing for them to do. So this country is going to go through a lot of grief, and has already, because of these Republicans in the House. I'll play that part back. That just the ayes, because that's a moment that's going to live for, I think, a long time. Just take it back to where the ayes were. Here we go.
To the House. All those in favor of reporting the resolution unfavorably signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion is agreed to, and House Resolution 186 is ordered.
There you go. That is the era we're living in right now. Alternate facts.
I wish it was like Parliament, British Parliament, where then everybody starts screaming at each other.
Right. Me too. All right. Let's briefly touch on this. You've heard a lot about why the failure of the Republicans to repeal and replace Obamacare is going to hurt them in their attempts to pass tax reform. And the reason is this. The Republicans do not have a supermajority in the Senate. So the filibuster is still available to Democrats. In the House, Democrats can slow down bills by adding amendments to them, which ultimately get rejected, but it slows down the workings of the bill and can be very complicated because amendments could be put on there that make it very difficult for Republicans to vote against. There is a parliamentary maneuver called trying to pass something through reconciliation. But there are very specific rules about reconciliation. The benefits of reconciliation to the majority party is in the Senate, it is filibuster proof. You only need a 51 vote majority to pass it, which the Republicans have. In the House, a reconciliation bill cannot be amended. But there are some restrictions on the reconciliation bill. It must start in the House. Now, there's ways of getting around this. Sometimes the Senate will pass some rinky-dink tax bill that nobody really wants, and it comes to the House, and they rejigger it, and it goes back. But mostly it must start in the House. It must impact the federal budget. So you can't get rid of, let's say, the Obamacare regulations on the quality of your health insurance through this process, because to the extent that it impacts the budget, it's ancillary. It's not directly affecting the spending of the U.S. government. On top of this, and this is where they start getting into problems, a reconciliation bill cannot add to the deficit in year 11 and on of the U.S. ledger, essentially. So the idea with passing health care first, or repeal of health care, was that it was going to provide a massive $800 billion tax cut, almost $1 trillion. It was $860 billion. $1 trillion tax cut, most of which would have gone to the top 1 or 2% of the population. And simultaneously, it would have cut nearly $1 trillion from the budget because you're getting rid of health care for a lot of people for a long time. And so the idea was that they were going to get that big tax cut. And then they would come in and do this next round of tax cuts, which would have added to the top 1 or 2%, but also could have been spread around. And they could find maybe $1 trillion worth of cuts. A little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe we'll add a border tax that will make up, and we'll get basically to net zero, and we can pass this thing through reconciliation. Well, they can't do that now because they just lost $1 trillion worth of savings and $1 trillion worth of tax cuts. So the question is how are they going to cut more taxes? Well, it turns out that the border tax is not going over very well with folks like Walmart. And that impacts a lot of Republicans. And it also turns out that all the tax savings, the tax loopholes that they could reverse, they basically all go to people at the top. And so it's hard to find savings on the backs of people that the poor people that they would have, if they had cut Medicare. Because the rich people's Medicaid, I should say, the rich people's Medicaid is something called the mortgage interest deduction. And nobody wants to get rid of that. I should say, nobody who's not, nobody in the Republican coalition wants to get rid of that because it's necessarily goes to people who have a lot of money. Or I should say, people who have a lot of money necessarily want to keep that tax cut. The other problem that they have here is, of course, is the sunsetting. If they had repealed Obamacare, you were talking about a permanent tax cut that could last for decades and decades because it would have been paid for by the fact that we're not providing health care for people. Now, the only tax cut they can pass is one that will expire in 10 years. And you'll recall, we went through this with Bush. There were tax cuts in 2001, late 2001, early 2002, I think it was, which expired in 2011. Does everybody remember the fiscal cliff? Well, in fact, it wasn't a fiscal cliff. It was just the idea that these tax cuts would expire, and the Republicans were upset about it. So when they do this again, because they're going to do it again, they're going to cut taxes for wealthy people for 10 years. 10 years later, folks, let's just keep in mind that we don't need to do anything and they expire. It won't be framed that way, just like it wasn't framed that way 6 years ago. It was framed like it was a crisis. But President Obama could have done nothing and would have won. Literally done nothing. Just said, I'm going golfing. I'll be in Hawaii. Sorry. It's Ramadan. Can't make it.
Not you, too.
I'm just saying that they would have said, well, in that case. So this is going to be a real problem. And the corporate tax reform that they want, here's the dirty little secret. You know how we supposedly have the highest tax rates in the Western world? Well, you'll see when they can't pass a corporate tax reform bill that corporations, despite the fact that we have the highest tax rate in the Western world for corporations, the effective tax is somewhere down in the 75th or 60th percentile. And all of the tax loopholes that would be removed in the event that we drop the rate would impact negatively these corporations more than the supposed tax they're paying now. So my prediction is what we're ultimately going to see, and maybe we won't even see this. I mean, this is what Chuck Schumer and Paul Ryan and Hillary Clinton were hoping they would get, which would have been a tax repatriation of money that is kept offshore by corporations. Remember, during the Eisenhower administration said to corporations, look, instead of having to pay taxes on money that you make overseas, we've just blown up the whole world fighting the Nazis, and we want to build up foreign markets. So here's the deal. I'm going to give you a moratorium. You will not have to pay taxes until you bring that money back to the U.S. That way you can keep the money over there and reinvest it and continue to build your businesses in foreign countries. Now, 40, 50, 60 years later now, 70 years later almost, it is as if this is a huge burden on U.S. corporations to have to pay these taxes when they come back into the country. So in 2005, George Bush hailed the America Jobs Creation Act, which supposedly was going to create a bunch of jobs. People like HP were pushing this. So they said, one time only, you get to bring these taxes back at like 3%. Maybe it was 3.5% tax rate. The money came back. Shareholders got huge dividends. They were used for stock buybacks. So the board of directors and the CEOs got paid off. I think HP laid off 15,000 people that year, among other companies. You can Google it. And I have a feeling we're going to see something like that again. The only possible difference, the only way they'll get Democrats on board, I think, this was the plan before the election, was to earmark some of that money to infrastructure build out. So and my guess will be it'll be something even worse than that. They'll be able to bring the money back and they'll get some type of sweetheart bond if they apply the money to a road they get to privatize. I mean, that, obviously it's not just going to be roads, but if the money is spent on some type of infrastructure. So they'll end up paying no taxes on this. It'll just basically be a huge giveaway. But the broad-based tax reform, long-term tax reform that they want to accomplish, I think is going to be very, very difficult for them to pull off at this point. But at one point, Donald Trump will realize like he needs a win because he can't just keep losing and losing and losing. And that's assuming he is still in office. Let's turn briefly to what's going on right now on the Hill. As you know, Devin Nunes now is getting calls for his resignation, or I should say recusal from chairing the House Intel Committee. And it's starting to get Sean Spicer very uptight. Can we actually say that? Or we just say that he's always been really super uptight? But what has been the Trump MO throughout not just his presidency, but the entire campaign? Well, the Trump MO for people like Sean Spicer and Donald Trump, and let's put this up, is to always make it racial. I don't know if you caught this, but like a week ago, when Donald Trump was giving a speech on his, he went to his first rally as a way of escaping this Russian stuff, and he started attacking Kaepernick. Yeah.
He said teams were afraid to pick him up because they didn't want to be tweeted at by the president, basically.
And I think that the place was in Tennessee, right? I mean, which is amazing because apparently there's no African Americans in Tennessee because the entire room was white, the entire stadium, or whatever it was, Civic Center, and they loved it. They ate it up. That Kaepernick, who incidentally is rated better than I think like half a dozen quarterbacks who have been picked up off free agency.
He had good numbers last year.
Very good numbers. And here is Sean Spicer freaking out about the fact that when Devin Nunes canceled yesterday's public intel committee hearing where we were going to hear from Sally Yates, and the Washington Post came out with a story saying that the White House was trying to stop Sally Yates from testifying. Here's the way that Sean Spicer is going to deal with this.
2.5 months in, you've got this Yates story today. You've got other things going on. You've got Russia. You've got wiretap, and you've got.
No, we don't have that. I know.
On Capitol Hill.
No, I get it, but you keep. I've said it from the day that I got here until whatever, that there is no connection. You've got Russia. If the president puts Russian salad dressing on his salad tonight, somehow that's a Russian connection. But every single person, that's, I appreciate your agenda here, but the reality is, hold on. No, at some point, report the facts. The facts are that every single person who has been briefed on this subject has come away with the same conclusion. Republican, Democrat, so I'm sorry that disgusts you. You're shaking your head. I appreciate it, but understand this, that at some point the facts are what they are. And every single person who has been briefed on this situation with respect to the situation with Russia, Republican, Democrat, Obama appointee, career, have all come to the same conclusion. At some point, April, you're going to have to take no for an answer with respect to whether or not there was collusion.
How do you change the perception of...
We're going to keep doing everything we're doing to make sure that what the president told the American people he was going to do, to fulfill those pledges and promises that he made, to bring back jobs, to grow the economy, to keep our nation safe. That's what he's been focused on since day one. We're going to keep focusing on that every single day.
So it goes on to talk about Condi Rice, and he tells her to stop shaking her head again. Should we continue there?
Yeah, let's hear this.
Did not support this president. She did not go to the convention. She comes, what is on the agenda, and how is their relationship? Has it healed since 2006 when he used a very negative word to describe?
So here's what I'll tell you. It's interesting that you ask those two questions back to back. On the one hand, you're saying, what are we doing to improve our image? And then here he is once again meeting somebody that hasn't been a big supporter of his. Hold on. But April, hold on. You it seems like you're hell-bent on trying to make sure that whatever image you want to tell about this White House stays, because at the end of the day, let me answer. I understand. Okay, but you know what? You're asking me a question, and I'm going to answer it, which is the president. I'm sorry. Please stop shaking your head again. But at some point, the reality is that this president continues to reach out to individuals who've supported him, who didn't support him, Republicans, Democrats, to try to bring the country together and move forward on an agenda that's going to help every American.
I'll tell you something. Even when I see parents saying that to a child, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, honestly, you stop moving your fat lips, buddy. Stop sweating. They're getting a little frustrated in the White House, and maybe they're getting a little bit scared.
And for some reason, Spicer's been very sensitive to April Ryan's question since he's been taking questions from her.
How dare she? How dare she? Isn't she also the reporter who was told by Omarosa that we have a file on you?
Yes, and I think physically assaulted minor physical assault, such as like a push or something. Omarosa.
That's the Lewandowski thing. Learned that from the best.
How much would you bet that in the White House they're like, someone's going to talk to April Ryan? Would you get Omarosa in here, please? She'll know how to talk to her. Unbelievable.
Good for April Ryan though, because she is going hard at every turn. So
This is actually good for her. It's like, look at like
she's sort of like
getting attention for doing her job.
His Helen Thomas, in some ways. Who we also interviewed on the old Majority Report in terms of archives. See if we can dig that up. That was the best of recently?
In the past year, I think.
Oh. All right, Kelly. All right, so let's go through what's going on in this. We're starting to see more and more stories that are retelling the past questions about Donald Trump and his seemingly close physical and business ties in terms of close proximity to a lot of money laundering. It's weird. We know that Devin Nunes is preventing Sally Yates from testifying. I have a feeling that is a subsidiary issue that they have that is more political than anything else. I don't know that Sally Yates would necessarily have the knowledge, incriminating knowledge of actions that the Trump administration took before coming into office. But here is Devin Nunes, who is now getting calls both from Republicans and Democrats alike. There's now, I think, at least 2 or 3 Republicans who said he's got to step down and recuse himself. And he really seems to be having problems dealing with that question. Here he is. The chyron is House Intel chair won't step aside from Russia probe. Even though now we have a completely inoperative House Intelligence Committee. Like on Mondays, they supposedly come in and they get a report on all the hotspots from the intelligence agencies. That meeting was canceled. Devin Nunes just seems to be walking around, as far as I can tell from what is on TV, he's just walking around the Capitol, never staying in one place. Because I think he wants to talk. I mean, we have like hours of footage of him just walking around.
2 other clips we could have used.
With reporters just following him. Where's he going? Where's he going? But here's the question.
White House and House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes.
But are you going to recuse yourself? Why are you so lame?
Who would not tell CNN's Manu Raju whether he plans to recuse himself in the Russia investigation.
Why are you so lame? You know, when they get to that point, they're starting to lose their composure a little bit.
I need to find that in like the Goebbels playbook or something like that. The propaganda, like just go to lameness or something like that.
But isn't that the same dynamic that we just saw with Sean Spicer? Don't you nod your head at me. Don't shake your head, April Ryan. I mean, this is the way they're responding.
I think it's not quite the same dynamic.
I'm not gonna. I don't know about that. I don't know. So here is a story that came out in the USA Today last night. Trump's business network reached alleged Russian mobsters. Now, we know that Felix Sater, who by all accounts heavily Russian mobbed up. I think we have this by court accounts. I mean, he has been charged with multiple crimes at different times. He clearly seems to be an FBI asset. Loretta Lynch wrote a letter in his defense saying that he's been very helpful. He was, 2011, 2012, I think maybe as late as 2013, a special advisor to Donald Trump. And I'm not saying he would was a special advisor. I'm saying that was his title. So this is how the USA Today breaks down the connections, if you will, with Donald Trump and money laundering. A member of the firm that developed the Trump Soho Hotel in New York is a twice convicted felon who spent a year in prison for stabbing a man and later scouted for Trump investments in Russia. That's Felix Sater. An investor in the Soho project was accused by Belgian authorities in 2011 in a $55 million money laundering scheme. 3 owners of Trump condos in Florida and Manhattan were accused in federal indictments of belonging to a Russian-American organized crime group and working for a major international crime boss based in Russia. Former mayor from Kazakhstan was accused in a federal lawsuit filed in Los Angeles in 2014 of hiding millions of dollars looted from his city, some of which was spent on 3 Trump Soho units. A Ukrainian owner of 2 Trump condos in Florida was indicted in a money laundering scheme involving a former prime minister of Ukraine. This is a funny clip from this USA Today. In 2013, you remember Donald Trump said, "I've never done business," right? I have no dealings with Russia. I have no deals that could happen in Russia. We've stayed away. I have no loans in Russia. I have no loans in Russia at all. He doesn't even remember the last time he had dealings with Russia. In 2013, after Trump addressed the potential investors in Moscow, he bragged to Real Estate Weekly about his access to Russia's rich and powerful. "I have a great relationship with many Russians, and almost all of the oligarchs were in the room." So digging into Sater, his criminal past was not well known until publicly divulged in 2007. As he sought investment opportunities in Russia, he carried business cards identifying him as a senior advisor to the Trump Organization that included the company's email and phone number. In February of this year, Sater introduced a Ukrainian politician pushing a pro-Russian peace proposal to Michael Cohen, Trump's personal lawyer and former chief counsel at the Trump Organization. Sater is no longer responding to emails or calls, and his website went dark last week, displaying the message, "Maintenance mode is on." I bet. Money laundering was an issue for Trump's Taj Mahal casino in Atlantic City. So you've got casinos, I mean, maybe second to like vending machines in terms of money laundering, historically, and real estate where people regularly overpay for his properties. It's weird. The Taj Mahal Casino in Atlantic City was fined $10 million in 2015 for failing to report suspicious transactions. Those federal rules are designed to protect the U.S. financial system from being used as a safe haven for dirty money and transnational crimes. Jennifer Calvary, then director of the U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, said at the time it was the largest penalty the agency ever levied against a casino since reporting requirements started in 2003. So we have all this money laundering that's just sort of like seems to be going around in the orbit of Donald Trump. And I think, you know, we're back to the very real possibility that all of these people associated with Trump, working for Trump, were dealing, in their minds, just with criminals. Criminals who could break into databases, who were well practiced at phishing emails, stealing credit cards. And my guess is they weren't, in their minds, colluding with the Russian government. They were just colluding with Russian criminals. Paul Manafort was associated with at least 15 bank accounts and 10 companies in Cyprus, dating back to 2007. At least one of those companies was used to receive millions of dollars from a billionaire Putin ally, according to court documents. Banking sources said some transactions on Manafort-associated accounts raised sufficient concern. Because you always want to have multiple accounts. Raised sufficient concern to trigger an internal investigation at a Cypriot bank into potential money laundering activities. That's weird. And after questions were raised, Manafort, of course, cooperated with the investigation. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Closed the accounts. I read that wrong. Because why wouldn't you close those accounts? They weren't that important anyways, all 15 of them. Maybe he was just pissed and he was like, I'm going to a credit union. I am done supporting this bank. Meanwhile, getting back to Nunes, there's now a push for a possible ethics committee investigation of David Nunes.
Still have those?
Devin, yeah, exactly. Well, this is funny because the ethics committee was basically, in the last months of the Obama administration, completely defanged. You recall they passed some rule where they basically went into an agreement. We're not going to bring anything. But there is I don't want to say arcane, but there is, I guess, buried in the rules regarding the House Intelligence Committee, there is a section that triggers a mandatory investigation into an allegation of spilling classified information. And it appears that Devin Nunes may have revealed the existence of the FISA warrant by saying that it wasn't the case that Trump was being surveilled, but that he was incidentally surveilled on a legal FISA warrant. So that may be in Devin Nunes' future. So all of this is, and we should also say one more aspect about the Sally Yates thing. There's a story about Mike Pence being a real solid rock for Donald Trump in the White House. And the story basically says, yeah, Pence wasn't mad about Flynn lying to him at all. Kept at arm's length about all of it. But Trump wanted to get rid of him, and Pence was just an excuse, and Pence willingly went along with it. He didn't mind. Now, I don't know if that's the part they don't want Sally Yates to testify about. But apparently, according to Marcy Wheeler, there was a phone call with Michael Flynn, Donald Trump, and Vladimir Putin that lasted for an hour after the time that Sally Yates had told Donald Trump that Flynn lied to Pence. And Marcy Wheeler makes the point that if the attorneys from the White House who are claiming attorney-client privilege of Sally Yates, then it is a implicit confirmation that Trump hid Sally Yates' warning from Mike Pence. And the reason is because Sally Yates' attorney argues there is no client privilege because everything that supposedly went down has already been made public by the president. So unless the president is lying and had a different relationship with Yates and that information than he's claimed, then there's no grounds in which to say that any information needs to be kept confidential. So it's sort of a catch-22 for the Trump people. But Yates was intending to testify and was not going to elect to refuse to testify based on any type of executive privilege. So that's why you heard that meeting canceled. But I just don't understand how they think they're going to be able to do this how long do they think they're going to be able to do this? Does anybody have any suggestions on that? They're just going to keep playing the clock out?
Just keep walking around Capitol Hill.
I don't understand how they thought they could get away with doing any of this.
They weren't expecting to have to.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Let's just play one more clip. This is a really, I don't know, I found this pretty moving. I mean, just because of the nature of this guy. He's 87 years old. It was an immigration forum in Sacramento, California on Tuesday. As you know, California has been battling ICE. And we've just had Jeff Sessions come out with threatening sanctuary cities. And the first guy you're going to hear from at this hearing is a representative from ICE. I'm sorry, he's a Sacramento sheriff who is cooperating with ICE. And he's claiming it's because of safety issues. And understand, most police will tell you that it actually endangers the public's safety because they need people to report crimes that they see. And if you are undocumented, you may be afraid to do that. In fact, we haven't seen hard data on this yet, but we've seen, at the very least, a downturn in reporting of sexual offenses in Los Angeles from Latino communities. We have seen legal families not take advantage of government services for fear of being on any type of registry. So here's the sheriff trying to justify his working with ICE, and the community wants nothing of it. And here's this 87-year-old man, and I think you'll hear the point that he's trying to make.
Horribly. I am looking at this only through a public safety lens. That's how I make all my decisions. So it has nothing to do with Trump or the laws are on the books. It's how do I go to sleep at night, keeping 1.5 million people safe.
Sir, go ahead, please. Step up, please. Sheriff Jones.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the forum that you have here tonight. When I was a little boy in Poland, for no other reason but for being Jewish, I was hauled off by the Nazis. And for no other reason, I was picked up and separated from my family, who was exterminated in Auschwitz. And I am a survivor of Auschwitz and Dachau. I spent 5.5 years in concentration camp.
I'm sorry, sir, I couldn't hear that.
I spent 5.5 years in concentration camp for one reason and one reason only. Because we picked on people. And you as the sheriff, who we elected as sheriff of this county, we did not elect you as sheriff of Washington, D.C. It's about time you serve the people here. And when this gentleman stands up there and he says he doesn't go after any people, he should read today's B. Because in today's B, the Supreme Court Justice of State of California objected to ICE coming in and taking people away from the courts. Don't tell me that this is a lie. You stand up here, Mr. Jones, don't forget. History is not on your side.
It's pretty powerful, I think, to be told by a 87-year-old Holocaust survivor that you're on the wrong side of history when you're starting to go around checking people's papers. And, the sheriff's sitting up there with the ICE director. Something super creepy when they all wear their pins, but that's how they identify them with each other.
What was the date of that? It was last night. Because he's talking about the Sacramento Bee. It was probably like an editorial against ICE going to courthouses, and I thought that they had stopped.
It was the Supreme Court making that ruling. The California Supreme Court.
Oh, so he's just talking about the Bee reporting on that.
Yes.
Got it.
All right, folks, we're going to take a break, head into the fun half of the program. Just a reminder, it is your support that makes this program possible. Become a member today at Majority. What is it? Join the Majority Report? I don't know. JoinTheMajorityReport.com. Also, JustCoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Oh, you know what? Hold off on that. We're going to have a special offer in 2 days, starting the month of April.
Was there a similar offer last year?
Mm-hmm. Way to blow the surprise, man.
People might have long memories. If they don't, then they're still going to be
What
surprised.
if they go back? They could go back.
If they want to put that much effort into it, I think we should.
That's probably true. Kelly has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I'll be surprised.
Also, if you buy your crap from Amazon or Jet, do it through our link at MajorityReportKickback.com. Go there, click on the Amazon or Jet link, bookmark it, buy your crap through there. We get a kickback. You will notice no difference, but like I say, we will. 646-257-3920 is the number. 646-257-3920 is the number. Quick break. Be right back. Fun half. Wow. There's a teenage blogger from Singapore who sought and gained asylum in the U.S., but he's still being held by ICE officials. I don't know. I got to look more into that, but they're just out of control now. I mean, they've been unleashed.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is for them to be out of control.
And you know, I think they use like, you know, the gloves are off now, but that's exactly how all that shit in Abu Ghraib happened. They basically just said the constraints are off. And you know, that's all you really need to do. When you put human beings into a situation where, you know, you dress them up like robots, essentially, you buff them up, you put them into situations where either they're being shot at or there's a sense that they're under threat. There's a reason why you have very specific rules of engagement and very specific regulations on what their behavior is, because left to their own devices, human beings in that context will start to do horrible things. So when you take it off, when you take those constraints off, bad things start happening. Really bad things.
It's probably really likely that in like 20 years, the name ICE is a pretty harrowing sort of name to think about.
I hope so. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Well, that would mean it would be getting like a lot worse, and like.
Or maybe the country as a whole will get a lot better. That's the hope, anyways. That's what I'm aiming for with that one. Badass Society. In defense of Michael calling in sick, he's allergic to alcohol. Give him a break. Fanny, too. Sam looks tired and sad today. Seems to have hurt his finger. So I say, yay, Sam. Fantastic interview yesterday. Your sharp wits keep me going. I did. I cut my finger over the weekend. And yes, I'm exhausted. Saul kept me up all night. Literally all night.
That is literally something you say every day.
Well, I can't help it. I mean, what am I going to do? Leave the kid? What happens is
I
he
don't.
naps at school. And we've asked them, don't let him nap. And they're like, we can't keep your child up. And we're like, of course, you can't. But when he naps at school, he won't go to bed. Like, he's up until 11. So then I can't do any work until after that. And I had to get up this morning, make the kids lunch, take them to school, and come in. I just had no time. Jim Botox. I live in Georgia, 06. I've noticed that only one candidate self-identifies as a Republican, Dr. Mohammed Ali Bouyin. He is an economist. Oh, yeah. I wanted to do an update on this. Did I do that update? No, I didn't. Okay. In Georgia, I've told you that on April 18th, there's a special election for the seat that Tom Price vacated. And there are 13 Republican candidates. I'm not sure how many Democratic candidates, but there is one who is a clear favorite in terms of the Democrats. This guy, Andy Ossoff. He is a documentary filmmaker, former congressional aide. This is I can't remember what they call it now, but it's a runoff election. There's something like 18 candidates. The top two vote getters will move on to a runoff election in June unless one of them gets over 50%. And so there's real concern that in a head-to-head competition, Ossoff will not win. But that there's a real good chance, or I should say a legitimate chance, he could get over 50% in this election. Now, it's hard, super hard. $3 million have been raised for Ossoff, like $1 million plus just through daily codes alone. And we are now into day 3 of early voting. Yesterday, Nate Cohn at the Upshot. For what it's worth, day 2 of in-person early voting in Georgia's 6th is Democratic 55%, Republican 32%. Overall, including absentee ballots, it's 55% Democrats, 31% Republicans with 3,300 votes cast. In past years, this district is much more Republican. But Hillary Clinton lost only by 1.5 points. Special election is like an off-year election, but times 2 in terms of nobody coming out for it. The real question is, how motivated are the Democrats in the Georgia 6th? So if you know anybody who lives in that district, if you know anybody who lives around that district and is willing to volunteer, call them. The implications of this race, a lot of times special elections are overstated as bellwethers. Forget about the bellwether aspect of this. The perception of it being a bellwether is important because we've said this before. There are 23 districts in the country where a Republican won the congressional seat, but the district voted for Hillary Clinton. If you expand that to Hillary Clinton was within 3 points, let's say, I don't know how many more there are. Could be a half a dozen, could be a little more. Anybody sitting in those districts, any of those lawmakers, if they see a Democrat take this seat, it's going to put them on notice that they're going to have a real problem if they go with Donald Trump's agenda. So it's going to impact their ability to pass legislation. So this is not just one of those things where, well, if you impact this, it's not really a bellwether. Doesn't matter if it is it's one of those self-fulfilling prophecy situations. So if you know anybody who has anything to do with Georgia, apparently like Swing Left, which is one of those organizations I think we put on our big resource guide that we sent out maybe a month ago. There was 5,000 volunteers who have signed up to volunteer. That's a lot for a district with like 500,000 people. I don't know, maybe 600,000. So we'll keep an eye on that race. Fingers crossed, but also, if you know anybody who's even close to Georgia, call them. So Donald Trump met with the Fraternal Order of Police. And he had some sage words of advice to everybody. I want you to listen to this very carefully. Donald Trump talks about how when he's on live TV, he has no mistakes. And then watch how he introduces the police officer sitting next to him.
You'll introduce yourself in front of all this live television. It's always live for me. Unfortunately, other guys say, make a speech, nobody cares. With me, everything's live. One mistake. And
Pause it.
No
Pause
good.
it. Let's go back. What I love about Donald Trump is the way that he relates to everybody is his own personal aggrievement. It's always, poor me, poor me. And it works with a conservative mind. It really does. They all feel so oppressed. But let's go.
Television. It's always live for me. Unfortunately, other guys say, make a speech, nobody cares. With me, everything's live. One mistake, and it's no good. But we just can't make mistakes, right? So we don't make mistakes. Go ahead, Ken.
Chuck Canterbury, the National President of the Fraternal Order of Police from South Carolina.
Kelly, did you catch that? Yeah, but... Go ahead, Ken.
His name card is incorrect.
Wow, nice catch, Kelly.
One mistake, and it's no good. But we just can't make mistakes, right? So we don't make mistakes. Go ahead, Ken.
Chuck Canterbury, the National President, Fraternal Order of Police from South Carolina.
There you go.
He's good at the reset, though, because he knows that if he reacts to that mistake, that it will be made into a bigger deal.
Yeah, or maybe he didn't even realize
That's
it.
true,
He
yeah.
didn't even listen to the way the guy was
I think
putting
that's
it.
probably it. 'cause
You
it's
know, you
stupid.
could say whatever your name is.
I
don't
forget
care.
it immediately.
I'm calling you Ken. The name tag says Ken. It's Ken.
He does call him Chuck earlier in the thing.
Smacks him on the arm. There you go, Ken.
Is his name like Ken Chuck?
It could be. Chuck could be his nickname. Okay, I gave you the good news. Georgia is looking better than I thought.
There was good news
Well, the
today?
Georgia thing. The Georgia thing.
God, okay.
Here's the bad news. This country has got a lot of people who are just like, I had a dog, and he got hit by a car. And he thought he was going to die. He dug himself a hole, and he was in and we couldn't find him for like a week. And a paper boy found him. And the dog his leg was hurt, and took him to the vet, and he went through, basically, it took him a long time to sort of get back to full strength, but he did. Never went close to the street again. Never again. And that dog seems to me to be significantly smarter than these voters who have been assembled here. Here's CNN's Bryn Gingras speaking with a few of supporters of President Trump. And listen to the complaints they have, and then how they're going to resolve them. There's one guy who I think who smartens up, but the rest of them, here we go.
But nearly everyone in this group wants the president to stop tweeting about things like TV ratings at his inauguration and Arnold Schwarzenegger's departure from The Apprentice.
What Donald Trump's doing is he's reacting immediately. He's not taking it's a knee-jerk reaction.
So does that concern you as the president?
Oh, absolutely. He needs to tone it down and forget about Snoop Dogg, forget about Arnold Schwarzenegger. We don't really care about them, do we?
I don't. If you want to be the apprentice, step down, let somebody else run the country. He needs to be presidential, plain and simple.
Sometimes I think he overreacts and doesn't have all the facts before he tweets.
Like this tweet, how low is President Obama gone to tap my phones during the very secret election process? This is Nixon Watergate, bad or sick guy. An accusation that is false.
Hold on, I can pause it. Can I just also add, why is tap spelled with two P's? Is that
Well, while you're
No.
tapping, if you say it while you're tapping, you just take the ing off, and all of a sudden you got while you're tapping.
Yeah, it's wrong. But the amount of times that I've now heard that tweet read in a serious voice, it's just disturbing.
Bad or sick guy.
Yeah,
Good.
that is false.
I did see it on a major news channel network, and I remember the first thing I said to my significant other was, I don't believe he just tweeted that. Even if he felt that way, I don't think he should have tweeted it.
I don't like those tweets. I really don't. He's using this as a medium because he doesn't trust the media. However, if you use that medium and lie on it, where does that put us?
Makes you no better than the journalist that you're assailing.
Show us the proof. Don't tweet it. Nobody got in that building and set up wiretaps in that building. He knows it. He won't admit it. And that's the kind of stuff that angers me. That's unpresidential.
Lifelong Democrat Scott McCommon says he went to 2 Trump rallies and was so inspired he crossed party lines this election.
Thank you.
McCommon says he now regrets his vote, even tweeting Trump, "Your Twitter rants are out of control. I voted for you to make America great again. Run the country, sir."
I will jump back on his wagon if he starts telling the truth and being honest with the American people.
Do you trust the president?
In what vein?
In general.
Simple question.
Simple question.
It is a simple question.
At this particular moment, I say I will trust him, even though he goes off half-cocked sometimes.
The good far outweigh the bad to me, so So I'm thinking Trump 2020.
Well, don't go that far, yes, sir.
I am. I already
Honestly,
Yeah. The Democrat there who jumped over, and there was a story in the Times that there was quite a few of those people, Obama voters who voted for Trump. We still need more data and whatnot, but that seems to be the indication that the story of the election was not turnout. Now, I'm a little bit confused by it to a certain extent. Seems to me that, and that's just based on what their predictive models are. But of course, there's also some belief that the data is a little bit skewed because there's a perception that Obama did better than he did with white voters. And that's a problem in the data. But nevertheless, the idea that you have somebody at this point going, Trump 2020, that, you know, that guy, you might as well, like, if you brought that guy in just to show, like, there's some people, like, Donald Trump could literally come and take a crap on this guy's living room floor, and the guy would just be like,
good outweigh the bad.
Exactly. At least he cared to show up. And so I love the guy, though, the very pedantic guy who's looking around going like, it's a problem, right? And then he goes, in what vein do I trust Donald Trump? Yeah, no, I would vote for him. I'd definitely vote for him.
I don't think that that it's that hard to understand why some people cross party lines. I think it's just as simple as Hillary Clinton would never be out for the little guy, and Trump somehow conveyed that, even though it's completely
And let's be
bonkers.
real, like that guy, if Hillary was a man, that guy probably would have voted for her.
Absolutely. But that was just the narrative, and like that might be, but it is true of Hillary Clinton's record. But I mean, as far as Trump goes, he's just never going to help any of those people.
I mean, but just this is the hard part about this, right? Is like disaggregating it, because I find it hard to believe that if it was, Henry Clinton, that dude in the back there wouldn't have voted for her, the Democrat.
Well, yeah, I mean, her being a huge fucking bitch was a problem too.
Maybe if she had a different political background or perception
or name.
I mean, who knows? You know, like I don't think any of this stuff is ever sort of binary. I think it's like, I'll vote for the black guy because he's sort of like whitish, and I don't trust the Republicans. But maybe in another context, he's a little too black, and I think it's the same dynamic here where, like, I'll vote for her because X, Y, and Z. But I think there is a sort of baseline misogyny that is helped or hurt, I mean, depending on your perspective, by other factors. I mean, I don't ever think it's like, I think for some people, obviously, it's just like, never going to vote for a N-word, and certainly would never vote for a once-a-month bleeder, type of thing. Well, I'm just doing...
You're weirding me out.
Well, I'm doing a character.
It's weird stuff.
And, but then I think there's a whole mess of people who are in the middle, who are disinclined to, whose inclinations can run racist or misogynist but that can be enhanced or mitigated by context and sort of media narrative. So, Derelict 09, Sultan bass player is catchy. I now play the La Poupée bass line during the sound check. Thanks for turning me on to them. Sam de minimis penis. Sam, every time I hear de minimis, I think Sam's penis. Am I wrong?
Stop it, everyone!
PDX. I'm no longer going to click on Sam de minimis penis. Although I have to say that the name does make me laugh. PDX Tony, can you do a brief commentary about the divide between the Greenwald Taibbi camp's reticence about Russia versus, I guess, the mainstream press' strong sense of smoke and fire vis Russia? And does Louise Mensch matter? I mean, I think there is clearly something going on. There's clearly something that the Trump organization is hiding. And I happen to think, and I think for a long time, that it's been less about there are spies in the White House and more about a guy who has had dealings with, and now I think I'm really coming around to the perspective on the guy was just involved with Russian mafiosa. And maybe he did some money laundering for them. Maybe it was one of the conditions of the loans he got. We're going to loan you the money. And then we're also going to buy some of your apartments. And we're going to buy it for a lot of money. Because the money's dirty. And you're not going to ask where it came from. And you're going to do it through different banking. I have no idea how something like that would work. And I tend to believe when Paul Manafort made that big issue of like, I never knowingly spoke to a Russian spy. Like, that to me suggests like, I've been thinking about it and it's possible I did. It just never occurred to me to ask. And I think it's quite possible that Trump did, or somebody in the organization did collude with people that they thought were just sort of run-of-the-mill hackers, criminals. I mean, look, there's this, I think sort of just like this mainstream perception that people are discreet and compartmentalized in this world of like spies and criminals. You know, I think like during the 80s, there was probably a lot of people who were both CIA and cocaine runners. And sometimes they had one boss and sometimes they had two bosses. And that this is just that world that you're dealing with outside of normal laws. And so it's quite possible, it seems to me, that the Trump organization was dealing with people they just assumed were Russian criminals and turned out to be Russian criminals and also working for Putin. And so I think the answer is somewhere in the middle there, and I think that nuance is very difficult position to take, particularly when you are as high profile as someone like Glenn Greenwald and Taibbi, and at the same time, also if you're in the press. You know, I think there's a lot of jingoistic stuff involved in like national security, and that's the way you get people interested in a story. And I think from the perspective of Greenwald and Taibbi, and I don't know if they're in the same boat, really, frankly, because I think Taibbi is has been a little bit less reluctant to perceive that there's something going on there. I think it's probably tiresome from Greenwald's perspective to see this sort of like, what Russia is doing is so egregious. I mean, for me, it's never been about the hack or the emails. It's just not been about that. It's been, he's got a strange relationship with a third party. That third party is not involved in the election, and that to me is what was always the issue. Does Louise Mensch matter? Well, I mean, I think to a lot of people in my Twitter feed.
Yeah, I don't find her terribly credible.
No, I don't find her terribly credible either. I'm sure there's some information that she gets that is legit, but there's a lot that I think is really questionable. And so that's my perspective on that. Calling from a 651 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Dr. C, the Chris Lapaco. Hello?
Dr. C.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Sam.
Chris.
All right, there's a big delay for some reason.
Is there?
I can hear you, but it's always delaying. Anyway, I'll just keep talking then. Who would have thought, by the way, the guy who wore shorts on CNN couldn't figure out that voting for Trump was a bad decision? Huh?
I noticed the shorts too. I didn't want to say anything.
To be fair, I mean, you don't always know if they're going to shoot you from the waist down. And so I've done.
You gotta assume.
Sometimes Sam just doesn't wear pants.
I did hits. Well, first of all, I know of multiple anchors who have worn shorts on television. But
like no pants though?
Well, not no pants. I'm saying shorts. I'm not saying naked. He wasn't naked.
But like, does Chris Hayes sometimes wear
Chris
pants?
Hayes sometimes goes naked.
Oh, okay.
Below the waist. It's awkward. It's awkward. If there's times where I look like I'm distracted, that's what it is. Dr. C?
Okay, well, Sam, hi, I'm back. Okay, I think you're kind of breaking it down the way that I'm thinking here. Like, a lot of people are putting together all sorts of connections and doing Glenn Beck stuff on chalkboards. I think people say there's no evidence of collusion with the Russian government, and there's no proof of collusion, but there's evidence, right?
Right.
And if you're just going to cut out all the BS, couldn't you just say they either hacked the DNC or they have compromising information or both? And they said, you do X, Y, or Z. Basically, you put Rex Tillerson in, and we won't throw out the video to everybody, or we'll hack the DNC or whatever. Couldn't it just be as simple as Rex Tillerson, I guess, is what I'm getting at, and everyone's running off, going all sorts of other places?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, I don't know if the Russians. I mean, I tend to think that Putin is not in contact with Trump, saying like, "This is what I want you to do about this, and what I want to do about that." I don't know. I mean, I would love to hear what that phone conversation is, but I think that's the area where you start to get a little bit where people can get ahead of themselves. And like, I don't know how they're leveraging it, but I mean, do they really need to leverage it that much? I mean, do they really, like, how much do they really need to be leveraging at this point? The real question is what is the Trump people hiding? And less as to, like, how is Putin playing the strings? I mean, Trump's behavior towards Russia is strange, and only because it's the only area where he's not operating like Trump, right? Like, I don't know, frankly. I mean, I'm sort of agnostic on this thing. I think there's a very good argument that you would want to have better relations with Russia. I think that there's a very good argument that we screwed up our relationship with Russia and have been too aggressive with NATO and expanding it because we were supposed to basically put a pin in it. But I also think that my 11-year-old daughter is more likely to have thought about the nature of our relationship with Russia geopolitically in the rest of the world than Donald Trump. And now it could just be...
Yeah, and that's why sorry, go ahead.
It could be the people who are around him listening to him, but as far as I can tell, there was no connection between Tillerson and Donald Trump. I don't know who suggested it. It could have been, I heard reports that it was people like Condi Rice, actually, and others, oil people who were basically, there's a lot of oil interests. It's not like, Donald Trump's the first person to want us to drill, baby, drill. You know what I mean? And
but I mean, you could have picked somebody who didn't get a medal from Vladimir Putin, I guess. You could have picked some other oil guy. But Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Sam.
I guess
anyway,
you could
I'm gonna
have
get going here.
if you were smart enough to think that might be a political problem. But if people told him to do it, I mean, I have no
Correct.
doubt that Donald Trump even had a clue about that.
All right. I love you, Sam. One last thing here. I hope this works.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Pajama Boy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bye.
It's not Christmas time. I think what he meant to say was Happy Passover. What? When is Passover? I don't know. Google it. You call him from a 509 area code. It's in like a week. Who's this?
Samo.
Yeah.
It's the R man.
Ronald Reagan.
Hey, how about this Russia story? Every day I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I'm holding up an actual shoe. It's a prop. You can't see it, but
Good one. Damn, we've got to do video calling just to grab a joke like that. I mean, we're just leaving a lot of gold on the table.
Visual
as it were.
cartoon comedy.
We're leaving a lot of stuff on the table.
it's also funny if you just explain the joke. Hey, I got to talk to you about something.
Yeah.
I used to like to go to estate sales, but I kind of stopped because they're kind of creepy, and there's like this thing where you go into the dead person's, bedroom, and you're looking at their clothes, and you realize like all their clothes are made out of weird polyester, and the collars are really too big. And I always had this moment where I realized this person stopped buying clothes like 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm worried that that's happening with you. And so I just want to, I love you. And
Was it from those ads, those US Open ads? Because literally I had, those ads were from over 15 years ago, I think. And I still and the shirts I was wearing were old then, and I still recognize them. Like, I think I only recently got rid of a couple of those.
What I don't want is like for kids or young people to be shuffling through your stuff when you're dead and to be like, just sweater vests? Like, what is this?
Well,
so
I mean, the
here's
sweater vest. Here's the problem with the sweater vest. All right, let me just say in my own defense. 1 second. You would be surprised how hard it is to find sweater vests now. It's not easy.
Okay. You're missing the point. You can't find polyester golf shirts with giant collars either, and there's a reason. There's a reason you can't find them.
Well, you can
so
find golf
This
shirts,
is the point, Sam.
Yeah.
Sam, this is the point. I'm going to have to cut your mic. Okay. You guys have Brooks Brothers in New York City, I'm assuming. Here's what you do. You go down to the Brooks Brothers, you get yourself a nice blue blazer, okay, fitted, and you get yourself some white, really bright, nice white T-shirts, and you become the T-shirt blazer guy. It's a great look. It looks sharp. It's also got that kind of cash Sam Cedar thing, but it's updated. And I know you've got some of that Bob's Burgers coin jingling around in your pocket. I mean, go down to the Brooks Brothers, get 6 different blazers, 15 white undershirts, and you're done. And,
hey, Ronald Reagan, email majority reporters afterward, because we're literally just arguing about this before the show.
Why are you telling him to email it?
Because I want to talk to him.
What's the
about
ally?
What do you
the
want to
plan.
talk to him?
We're gonna style you.
I'm literally on the
What are you
phone.
kidding?
You're
You're not going to style me with Ronald Reagan.
I'm gonna style you with Ronald Reagan.
No, I'm going
We're
to
gonna
intercept
Ronald
it.
Reagan.
People would watch that YouTube video.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan and I are gonna FaceTime or Skype, and we're gonna make a video
you guys
out of it.
fit me in the. I'll tell you one thing I will never ever do is I will never wear the jacket T-shirt thing. First of all, that is not stylish. That is not new. That's been around for a long time.
Sam, this is the thing. I thought the same thing, and my wife literally made me do it. And it looks and it feels great.
I want to see a picture on. I want to see a picture on Twitter with you wearing that right now.
Okay, well, I'm at work right now. I can't just go.
Oh, wait a
home
second. So
and-
I'm supposed to wear it to my work, but
right now I've got a really great shirt. I've got a really great shirt, but I don't have the jacket. Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm talking about.
If you're concerned about what Sam is wearing,
all right, we will take it under
on
advisement.
His upper
I really
body,
appreciate it.
You should see what is happening
Oh God.
on the
Let's
down.
let's say this. You're stepping all over Janine's stuff that she's going to say at the Podfest by making fun of my pants.
Oh
so.
God, thank you so much for saying that, because now I can manage what you're going to wear to Podfest.
No way. I got news for you.
All right.
It depends on what day it is. I already have it set up. I
I've
have
got
a Saturday
news
garb.
for you. I'll be deciding that. I don't have a whole lot of.
Ronald Reagan, see what you've done. Good day, sir.
All right.
Right. Unbelievable.
You're doing it.
What are you talking? You're calling from a 215 area code. Who's this?
Yes, hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes?
Sam?
Yes? What's?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Sorry about that.
You calling me
you
from-
know that I'm originally from New York, and I'm really laughing it up watching all these people like on CNN and such trying to make like policy connections with Trump. This is a man from New York. He is simply seeing the world this way. In order for me to give a tax break to my friends, I got to take the money away from all the schmucks through their health. That's his mentality. Hello?
Hi. You know, it's really hard to make out what you're saying. It's his. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry. Okay, what I'm saying is this: people are trying to read too much into politics. Trump is from New York. He simply sees the world this way. I got to give my friends a tax break,
right?
And the money has to come out of going to lose their health insurance. There's no policy.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, I don't even know that he did the second part of that. I think he's just like, I promised them a tax break at 21 or whatever that restaurant was, and I'm going to get my buddies a tax break so that all the rich people I will deal with when I get out of office will be going around saying, thank you, Donald, look at all the money you made me, and they're going to make me money back. I mean, that's I should explain.
Uh-huh.
That's what you're talking about when you say it's from New York. I mean, everybody's got, an angle, and he grew up particularly in the New York that it was like that. It's like, you put money in my pocket, I'll put money in your pocket.
Exactly.
And if we do it right, it's not our money. I'm putting somebody else's money in your pocket, and I'm exactly. I don't think there's any policy either. I don't even think he got to the second part about we got to cut poor people's health care. I don't even think he knew that much about it. And I think he just, there's reports that he was asking his advisor, like, is this a good bill? Is this a good bill? And people around him going like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, he's a dolt, but he is the president. I appreciate the call. Weird phone system going on over there. Calling from an 808 area code. Who's this? 808 once. 808 twice. 808. Good day. Too moody. Morale has never been higher at ICE. Yeah, I believe that. I believe
You don't
that.
have to go after the dangerous people.
That's exactly right. They no longer are restricted to chasing after actual criminals. They can just go for soft target after soft target. And they get to play out. I mean, I think a lot of these guys are probably former military, maybe former police officers. They get all the good stuff, right? The wearing the equipment, the racing around, the tracking of the people, all the stuff like that you as I'm just thinking of my 4-year-old son. Like, we're going to get the bad guy.
Remote controlled drones.
The remote controlled drones. that Saul loves to maneuver. No, it's all, I want to get the bad guy. And of course, you don't want to say to your kid, like, well, you realize there's also a danger that you're going to get shot and you're going to get killed and you won't see your family. Oh, no, I don't want that part. I just want to get the bad guy. That's what this is. It's like they're playing paintball. Cat. Everyone should take 25 minutes and watch this morning's C-SPAN call-in show with Representative Bill Pascrell. Not only does he have a great grasp of the details, he really knows the gears he's working with, but he also knows how to talk to right-wing callers in no uncertain terms. He's compelling and fun to watch.
That's the guy from that clip we played earlier.
Yeah. I'm active in my local Democratic Party and in a union. These older guys, mostly, but not all white, can't vote for a woman when you really dig down. Plain and simple. Putin pro tip. Putin is the head of the Russian mob. It's all about the sanctions and destabilizing Western democracy, break up NATO, especially when Europe is becoming less dependent on oil, gas, more money and influence for Putin. Maximum, no, I'm not going to do that. Crapo Zappo. If I become a member, will I get quick and easy access to the best of episodes? Indeed, you will. Totally. The best way to do it is to, when you become a member, is to log in on the app. Because the app is searchable. And it will ask you, do you want us to download archives? You're not actually downloading the actual shows to your phone. You're just downloading all the links, the searchable links to them, essentially. And so you can go in there and you can put in a name. And unless Michael has done a bad job of doing the titling, which is very possible back in the day.
Generally pretty good.
Well, I mean, yours, the past year and a half, is completely complete. Prior to that, a real problem.
Oh, Michael's still doing it.
Is he really? Ew. Well, at least Matt QCs it occasionally. And then you'll be able to search those. Epish. ICE has been a harrowing name for more than a decade. Carl Schluter used it to throw that name around to keep us in line in Milwaukee back in 2002. He was the owner of a business called Carl's Party Rental. We got government contracts for Iraq and Bush inauguration. M. DeWitt. When you talk to libertarians about the monopoly of violence, have you asked if the federal government should have that versus it being left to the states? Well, yes, with the states, it's okay because they're smaller. But yes, it's the same thing. I mean, that's why some libertarians I think are neo-Confederates. You brought up libertarians the other day. I've been listening to your debates. Your attention and patience is impressive. Well, thank you. I have 2 children. I feel your pain, Sam. My son is 3, and in May keeps me up until 11:30 p.m. every night. The Trump deal may have been as simple as letting them keep eastern Ukraine. James Darwin. Sam, I have a solution for Saul. Coffee. He won't nap. He'll stay up until you and your wife go to bed. He'll sleep until you get up. Problem solved. Burning Peeper. Sam, how do you like Woolsey, who just came out with a New York Times reporter saying he was in a meeting with Flynn in Turkey where the Turkish government officials wanted them to kidnap. Yeah, I saw that. Erdogan's ex-best friend, Gulen, the one living in Pennsylvania who Erdogan wants because he said he was behind the attempted coup. And this was during the transition. Flynn was planning or was offering to plan essentially a kidnapping of Gulen during the transition. Now, understand something. Woolsey did not quit the Trump campaign at that time. He quit later. So he found out something worse than that later. Colin from a 515 area code. Who's this?
Hello, this is Sanjeeva from Ames, Iowa.
Hi, Sanjeeva. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was just going to say on April 11th, James Thompson is running for Mike Pompeo's seat in District 4. We actually might have a shot. The Koch brothers put in $2 million into that race because the Republicans put up a really bad candidate who was just way too tight to Sam Brownback, and that district just really hates Sam Brownback right now.
When is that election?
That's April 11th, a week before Ossoff's election, early voting starting now. The big city in that district is Wichita.
Well, I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. Who is the Democrat?
The Democrats,
James
James
Thompson.
Thompson, he was a Bernie supporter.
Oh, good. And what have you seen any polling at all or anything like that?
No, there hasn't been any polling, but he did get some moderate Republicans to endorse him because the Republican candidate is just like a complete brownbacker.
Huh. So James Thompson, he's a civil rights
Oh, and
attorney.
I also wanted to say, we should support Heath Mello for mayor of Omaha. It's kind of important because Nebraska 2, District 2, is the biggest city is in Omaha. The biggest city is Omaha. So if we win the Omaha mayoral election, according to Jane Cleave, we could have a really good chance of taking that district. I think Don Bacon, the Republican, only won it by 1,621 votes, according to Swing Left.
Wow.
So if we can get to Omaha's mayoral race, we can set up a ground game which we can use for the next year.
Interesting. All right, we'll keep an eye on those. Thank you, Sanjeev. I appreciate the info. We'll look into James Thompson, too. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Interesting, those two races. Calling from a 215 area code. Who's this?
Hi, Sam. It's Mindy.
Mindy, are you going to come Saturday?
Yeah. Well, here's the deal.
Yeah.
I live in Pennsylvania, and I want to come. And Meryl's going to come with me. My girlfriend Meryl.
Okay.
The Republican, my best friend, who we can turn. I think we can turn her. But
Kelly,
two
we got to
things.
get these
First
guys
of all,
tickets.
Well, I got mine.
Oh, you did?
Can
Okay.
you send me one for her? Yeah. My girlfriend got me one. Actually, you emailed me one. Can I bring her?
Yes.
Yes. We'll get you guys in.
All right, because I'm driving from Pennsylvania, Bucks County. I just had my knee replaced a couple months ago, so I definitely have to get in if I get there.
Oh, we'll get you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I need a name. So if you email Majority Reporters and put Mindy in the subject line,
Kelly,
we'll check it out.
Yeah.
So.
All right, good. And then Kelly, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
My friend Jay and his wife Michelle's coming too.
Yes, great.
But also, you know Jay?
Well, yes.
Anyway. Okay, so Michelle's one of my really good friends. Anyway, so Meryl just wants me to just ask you if you could not rag on her.
I will not rag on Meryl.
I'll have a huge fight with her if you rag on her.
I
no,
promise you.
there won't be time
No,
for
there won't be time.
any type of nonsense
All right,
like that.
so
But we may want you to just give a wave at one point, Mindy.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you can pick on me. I definitely, but you can't pick on Meryl. That was the one, and I have to take her out to lunch, and I have to pay for all the tolls and everything. But that's my thing.
No, there won't be any time for something like that.
We'll have a...
Okay, and last thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can definitely come.
Yes, definitely.
And we have to be there at noon, right?
I think
quarter
it's
of
doors.
one.
Yeah, doors open at 1, and there is. Well, you just got your knee replaced. I'll save a seat
Yeah,
for.
I gotta
I'll save a
sit.
seat for you guys because it is partially
Okay, I
standing.
really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, I had it done a couple months ago. I'm actually feeling really good.
Still.
The last thing is, I agree with Ronald Reagan. The blazer with the T-shirt, but it's got to be a total V-neck, crisp white. Totally agree with him. I did that to my husband. He looks amazing.
No,
all
Sam
the time.
can't wear a V-neck.
I wear
V-neck and
V-neck
some,
T-shirts. I
some,
wear
like
V-neck,
a
but I'm
necklace.
not going to wear that.
I think a V-neck and like a necklace.
Why?
Well, I just...
You can't do that.
No.
No, it's not.
It's not. No, it's not my. It's
So
not
not
my.
what's
It's not part of my core brand proposition.
You can't do that with like a pair of Joe jeans or something.
With a compare with what?
Joe jeans. Kelly knows what they are, right?
Joe jeans?
I do know what they are.
Yeah, like Joe jeans.
Sam hasn't
Yeah,
worn
like just-
jeans in what is it? I don't know, since that commercial or something. Were you wearing
15,
jeans?
20 years?
20 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been wearing one pair of pants, Mindy.
That's not true.
You mean like Dockers?
No.
No.
Like Dockers?
No, they're
He's not even into Dockers?
They're
He's worse
Carhartts.
than Dockers?
mostly Carhartts.
He's not like a slumming it or anything, but it's not like
No.
a great situation. It's just not
Some
something
nerdy
he's real
look,
into.
right? He's like got a nerd thing going on. You would look great, Sam, if you did the blazer and the T-shirt thing. I think you should look into that.
Sam doesn't look like
Kelly,
a
can you
nerd.
work on that?
Man,
All right.
gotta
Well,
tell you, I've been
look,
trying.
You don't have to ask
see.
Kelly to
maybe
work
at
on
the
that.
maybe at the show we'll be doing that. But
I'm going to see you at the show, but thank
yes.
you. But
No,
the main
I'm
goal
very-
was
thank
that
you.
Meryl doesn't get picked on and that I could get her in. And
Meryl
Kelly,
does
I
not
will
get
email
picked
you.
on. Right. Meryl doesn't get picked on, and V-neck T-shirt with necklace.
Well, no,
Okay.
forget the V-neck T-shirt. But Meryl doesn't get picked
All right,
on.
well-
I have to drive home with her.
You've ruined the surprise, but I was going to shave my chest for the show on Saturday.
Oh no,
so-
no
so,
shave. Ugh,
okay.
gross.
No, I've got to. I mean, it's too late.
All
No,
right,
that's
we'll
it.
see you
Okay,
there.
all right.
I'm really excited.
Very excited to have you come, Mindy. Thank you so much.
Very excited. I'm a 58-year-old woman. Don't expect a lot, Cool though, very cool.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, just understand. My chest will be shaved. So, thanks.
That's purely your preference.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you
All
there.
right, bye-bye.
Really excited. I
Very
have a lot
excited.
to say, but I'm not saying it today. All
All
right,
right.
have a good day.
We're
And you
gonna-
sound a little better, Sam.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you were
feel-
really depressed there for a while. Let's just give out a shout out to Jared Kushner
Yes.
Right?
Keep up the good work, Jared. You're
for
doing
running
great.
the country.
Yes. Thank you for
For
solving
running
the
the country.
Middle East conflict and your SWAT team that has assaulted our government.
Right. All the technology's in Jared's hands.
Can't wait for that
Loving
guy to
that.
end up in
Loving
prison.
that.
All right.
The
So
power
long.
couple. All right. See you then.
Bye. Okay. Well, this is gonna get it's gonna get progressively weirder, I guess, until this.
I think that's a good strategy, though. Just get weird as a sort of aversion therapy to have people stop bringing up your dress sense, basically. Just bring up the shaved chest.
Right. I'm gonna have to shave. I may shave. I just may shave it all.
No, don't.
Eyebrows, arms.
It'd be good for YouTube.
Maybe Mindy and my mom could be friends.
Well, I mean, we'll see. God, there's
Get
a
a couple
we're putting-
drinks in my
we're
mom,
putting a
and
lot
she's
of-
gonna
there's
be
a-
going right along with Mindy.
There's a lot riding on this live show, man. I'll tell you right now. Like this.
My mom's gonna text me in 5 seconds.
Albin and Jay. John Ozoff. Not Andy. It's not Andy? What? Are you sure? What'd you say? I'm being told it's John Ozoff, not Andy. O-S-S-O-F-F. Is it John? Yep. Where did I get Andy from? That's weird. All right, if we cut that up, we got to make a correction. Yeah. Also, side note about Russia. Ever heard of the book Foundations of Geopolitics, written in the 90s and reads like Putin's playbook? Check out the wiki. I have not heard of that. Giz Garzley. You can torture animals, beat or assault women, your wife or girlfriend, be involved with violent crime, illegal gambling, and keep working in the NFL. Take a knee against anti-black racism, and your career is ruined.
It's a
Indeed.
distraction.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen noted elsewhere when white people complain about tone or lecture black people on the proper way to tell the truth, even if the black subject listens to these complaints and engages in a respectful dialogue with whites as Kaepernick did, makes no difference and never has. Respectful and carefully modulated forms of protest to appease whites by blacks are always and everywhere and since forever either ignored or met with violence. But Trump fell from the sky and brought white supremacy and racism with him. It's not deep in the DNA of capitalist Western civilization. By extension, the billionaire team owners, general managers, and white players and coaches know. I think you're being sarcastic about that last one, but no, obviously, this has been an ongoing problem. I mean, I'm old enough to remember where it was controversial to have a black quarterback. Is it still controversial to have a black coach?
There's not a whole lot of them. They have rules saying teams have to interview a certain number of minority coaches.
But, and I don't say this to diminish the obvious dynamic that you're talking about that exists with or without Trump, but the idea that the President of the United States would get up and as a non sequitur say this in front of a virtually all-white audience is extremely disturbing, obviously, but can get a lot more disturbing. I mean, he's licensing all sorts of stuff And to the extent that we're moving in any positive direction in race in this country, and I don't know that, I mean, broadly speaking, I don't know that you can say we are at this date and time in terms of like cultural. I don't know about that. But to the extent that we are, he's going in a very different direction. And I'm not convinced that it can't go more in that direction. Rusticus. Georgia has a jungle primary. That's what it is. Slimy, wet butthole. Watch the average U.S. TV drama, whether it's crime shows or cop procedural, espionage or superhero junk even. Perhaps the worst of all are the lawyer shows, oddly. But all of them are profoundly orientalist, racist, Islamophobic. The self-congratulation of Hollywood extends to itself because of openly gay characters are black or Latino. Only means you have gay black characters who are xenophobic. Colin. Sam, I watched Sanders on Cooper's show. In the interview, Bernie said that while we work towards a social health care system, we should improve the ACA. Sounds good, right? Can the ACA be improved while the Republicans have a majority? Unlikely. Are they going to block any changes made to the ACA? Likely. The social health care system viable in America, given the corporate idealism that Republicans and others hold so dear? I mean, I think there conceivably could be change. I mean, you're starting to hear some like Republicans talk about expanding Medicaid in their states. Who knows? I am a sock. Wouldn't it suck to be a conservative, always being in fear of everything? Mimoless. Yes, Sam, I have a 4-year-old son. He used to have the same problem as Saul, napping at school, then not sleeping overnight. I talked to his pediatrician. He told me that if the school won't stop the naps, that it would be okay to give him 1 milligram of melatonin about 15 minutes before bedtime. It's been a godsend. Now he goes to sleep fast and stays asleep all night and wakes up normally. Maybe consider this after consulting with his pediatrician.
That is ridiculous. The school, I don't think, has the right to tell you that they won't keep him. I mean, I used to work at a daycare, and some people didn't want their kids taking naps, and we took them in another room and played while the other kids took naps.
They
don't want to do
They
work.
make them quiet resters, and I think part of it is that they are taking a break too.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But if it's affecting your home life, then
I know.
We're
going to do something.
Yeah.
I'll look into the melatonin. I mean, I take those half the time.
That just seems, it seems it's natural, but like
a pharmaceutical solution to something that shouldn't have to be
it's
sought out.
herbal, but I mean, giving it to a little kid in place of telling the teachers, no, you're gonna have to watch him for the extra half an hour. Like, no.
Well, they also feel like if he's tired, I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem. It's a problem. I mean, they're professionals. It's a preschool. It's not a daycare center where, it's just like for an extra $5, you're willing to keep the kid awake. I mean, that's pretty unethical.
For an extra $5,
whatever.
No, the
Tip from
daycare
the
center.
parents,
I mean,
like,
listen, to work with kids.
barely regulated, I would bet.
That's absolutely
you work.
untrue. The place, no, it's extremely regulated.
Well, it just sounds a little dubious. I mean, you're going to keep the kid
What?
up because you're getting a tip.
We didn't get any tips.
Whatever.
You had to have a certain ratio of adults to children. I was in the toddler room, and there were eating restrictions for some of the kids, and just all kinds of stuff. And that's just what you did.
Okay. We should keep in mind the unintended consequences of Dems filibustering Gorsuch. Republicans will select the bomb robot from the Dallas shooting as the next nominee. Also, I met a ton of really smart folks through the swing left. We're canvassing Pennsylvania 16. Shout out to Baltimore, Midtown Belvedere swing lefters. Good for you going out there and canvassing. I don't know materially what really could be worse than Gorsuch. You may have someone who's like more insane in their views, but may not be smart enough to shift the court in the way that they. I mean, sometimes that can backfire. So, I mean, Gorsuch is a bad nominee, but I also think that, look, the bottom line is there must be some retribution for not even giving a hearing to Obama's. I mean, that's just, I'm sorry, that is just the bottom line. So there's undoubtedly going to be unintended consequences, bad consequences from filibustering, but there's going to be bad consequences either way. This is a function of what happens when you lose an election at this time. And the question is, how do you mitigate the damage? And this is the best you can do, I think. Joseph Ballin, Sam, as a subscriber to Majority Report, I cannot stand these takers who are mooching off my subscriber dollars by getting free, full Majority Report podcasts. Nothing in podcasts comes for free. Nobody gets full, free Majority Report podcast. Oh, wait, no, some do. So I've created an MR Leadership Council and believe that everyone receiving free podcasts should be forced to take a drug test. We already do that. Look, the deal that we make with people who can't afford is we ask them to send us a cup of their urine. And then we test it. And a work requirement at Majority Report for a certain number of hours a week. We actually, what we do is we make them, we tell them that Michael's going to practice his Nelson Mandela on them. He calls them Cuomo Booker 2020. Jake the Snake. Sam, why are so many people on the left just so dumb? I don't understand where it comes from. This election was endlessly infuriating, hearing people minimize the importance of the Supreme Court or act like Trump is somehow better than Clinton. What can be done about this, other than listening to your Pajama Boy podcast, of course? I mean, there are some really dumb people out there. Let's talk about what's happening with the environment, shall we?
Great.
Where are we here? So Donald Trump yesterday issued a sweeping executive order that will lift a moratorium on federal coal leasing and remove the requirement that federal officials consider the impact of climate change when making decisions. That's the big one, right? If you eliminate even the test as to whether or not this regulation increases the problems with climate change or decreases them, then you know what's going to happen. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. Some of these measures may take years to implement, but the order is silent on whether or not the United States should withdraw from the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. But of course, if you revisit the CAFE standards, which apparently Trump's going to do, if you eliminate the question of climate change impact when determining making these assessments, if you raise or get rid of the federal coal leasing, if you get rid of the coal-fired power plants rules, the methane leaks rules, then of course, we're not going to be able to even meet those benchmarks sent in Paris. And those benchmarks weren't even that aggressive. But more than that, it is sending a signal to the rest of the world like, hey, guys, we're not in on this. So if you continue to do it, I mean, there's a reason why people are concerned. And I think what was it today that the Brits formally signed the intention for Brexit? It was yesterday. Today. I can't keep days straight anymore. But one of the big fears, the reason why this destabilizes the EU is that there's a concern that other countries may follow suit. Well, certainly, if you are a developing nation, even if you're China and whatnot, I mean, China, I think, some sense, but if the United States, which is per capita one of the biggest emitters, if not the biggest emitter per capita, is not going to uphold these benchmarks, then why would you? So yes, somebody, IAMS me says, why is the left so dumb? All I can tell you is that if you're feeling good about yourself, it's probably because of something like this.
You know, I voted for the candidate who had a Green New Deal, so I feel proud of myself about that because you're saying that that's a great way to get out of this.
Yeah, there you go. That guy also was mad at Keith Ellison for saying, hey, people who are upset that I lost the election and that Bernie Sanders lost, buck up, keep fighting. And apparently that was very offensive to him.
I want to keep fighting when the revolution's supposed to be here already.
Fortunately, I think according to this guy, the entire Democratic Party has Parkinson's. So, I mean, those are the guys who were saying, like, it doesn't matter about the Supreme Court. It's just stupidity. It's really just sort of like, it's childish. As you know, a Dakota Access Pipeline, Keystone XL, both been approved. Mining companies now have a lot more license to pollute waterways. There's the new accounting system that would have compelled coal companies and other energy firms to pay more in federal royalties. That's out the window, so we're going to be subsidizing this stuff more. An acceleration of fossil fuel production on federal lands. All this, folks, so that somebody could go around and say something like this.
You know, I voted for the candidate who had a Green New Deal, so I feel proud of myself about that because.
Yeah, there you go. Hope you feel very proud of yourself. I voted for a candidate who was not going to bomb Mosul. I feel pretty good about myself. Those people in my alternate reality, they're alive. I don't know. Just childish. You vote that way to feel proud of yourself? Also, Republicans yesterday, because they have a Republican president, the House has the ability through something called the CRA. This is the Congressional Review Act. Any regulation that has been put into effect in the last 90 legislative days, I think it was, of the prior congressional session can be not only overturned by just the House and then signed by the president, but also that regulation cannot come back. It cannot return without an affirmative act by Congress. So you cannot wait for the Democratic president to come back in and have a democratically controlled FCC and then have them reverse this decision. Here is what the Republicans have voted to allow your ISPs to do. Financial and medical information, social security numbers, web browsing history, mobile app usage, even the content of your emails and online chats. This is according to the motherboard at Vice. These are private consumer information that House Republicans voted Tuesday to allow your internet service provider to sell to the highest bidder without your permission. The bill was passed. It's not even a bill. It's just an action by a vote of 2015 to 205. It is reversed the FCC's consumer privacy rules that were passed in 2016. These rules, which were set to go in effect later this year, would have required broadband providers to obtain opt-in consent before using, sharing, or selling private consumer data. Here is Representative Michael Cupano from Massachusetts. I think you'll be able to tell. Asking the Republicans, honestly, what is the constituency for this? How is this helping Americans?
From Massachusetts is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks, gentlemen, for yielding. I have a simple question. What the heck are you thinking? What is in your mind? Why would you want to give out any of your personal information to a faceless corporation for the sole purpose of them selling it? Give me one good reason why Comcast should know what my mother's medical problems are. You know how they'd know? Because when I went to the doctor with her and they told me what it was, I had no clue what they were talking about. I came home and I searched it on the net. And I searched the drugs that she was taking. The same with my children. Just last week, I bought underwear on the internet. Why should you know what size I take? Or the color? Or any of that information? These companies are not going broke. That's not the situation. The internet is not in jeopardy. This is plain and simple. And I don't get this. When I was growing up, I thought one of the tenets of the Republican Party that I admired the most was privacy. It's mine. Not yours, not the government's, mine. You can't have it unless I give it to you. My phone number, my social security number, my credit card number, my passwords, everything is mine. And yet, you just want to give it away. You make a one good argument.
Apparently, the argument is that this doesn't apply to Google, so we got to even the playing field. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Comrade Biden. Ken does good work, don't you, Chuck? Somebody get him a cup of coffee. You like coffee, don't you, Frank? What a guy. Calling from a 303 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Well, we got to go in 5 minutes. 330.
Yeah, my God, now you're even just screwing up my area code while you're at it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is Richard from Ohio again, and like,
Gotta be
you
quick,
give
Richard.
Ronald Reagan a polite listening. So I understand the jumpsuits are gone. Like,
Oh
that's
my
off
God.
the
We're not going
table,
to go over
even
this
though,
again.
you know, you're
We're not going to
listening.
go over it again. Same joke. You got to give me something new. Quick.
Tour jackets, 1980s tour jackets. Grow a mullet, embroidered patch on the thing. You'd look sharp.
Under advisement.
It'd be real 80s.
Under advisement. Under advisement.
Okay.
Tour
yeah.
jackets. Tour jackets under advisement. Calling from an 808 area code. Who's this? Got to be quick.
Sam.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just going to say I can't wait to buy Alex Jones and Rush Limbaugh's internet history from some shady company and then figure out what they've been up to.
That would actually be pretty
And then
fun.
I might as well. Yeah, and then we can start with the Trump administration and maybe clients of the Trump Tower. I would really like to see what their interests are.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be a I don't know if they'll be able to sell it like that. But that would actually be fun. You know, that might be a funny thing for somebody to do. Is that that would be a great way to prevent this from happening? Like setting up a fake website that you can just search for people's internet data, and that you could just pretend has been bought from a company and
from
brokerage.
some other.
That would actually be a great piece of
That would be
activism
great.
to do. I mean, if somebody could turn that around
Yeah.
quickly, because you could get a story about that.
Also, is this warrantless search and seizure? Is this a violation of the Fourth Amendment by them?
No, because I think the argument would be like when you agree with the terms of service by getting your internet from Comcast
For
or
an
whoever it is, then you are basically giving up your rights of privacy in that regard. So.
Okay. And I would inform all majority users to check out VPNs, your local
Yep.
VPNs, and get to work on getting that done.
Appreciate
All right.
the call.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Calling from a 785 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? Got to be quick.
My name's Avi. I'm calling from Kansas City, Missouri.
Hello, Avi. What's on your mind?
So I just had two quick questions. I saw your video about Bill O'Reilly making that comment about that black congresswoman.
Yep.
And I was wondering, obviously Bill O'Reilly is definitely a racist, and he's picking on low-hanging fruit because it's easy for him. But I just want to know, how exactly was it racist? The James Brown guy, his hair does look kind of ridiculous, and when I looked up who that congresswoman was, her hair does look kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, I just want to know, how exactly was it like racist?
Black women,
I'm sorry if it
especially
was like me.
black women's hair, is historically politicized. I took an entire class on it in college. It's a complex issue.
And that's
for
where the
them.
first place he goes too, right?
Right.
That's the level that he can engage
Well,
with her
I mean,
on.
But it is racist. That's
agree,
what I'm
yes,
saying.
it is,
It is explicitly racist historically. I mean, for a black woman to wear her hair naturally, it's, people are going to say one thing, or to do another thing, they're going to say another thing. It's complicated. And for him to, go there is particularly racist. So,
I mean,
but he's just an idiot overall.
I think, it's, you got to look at the context. This is a guy who has repeatedly, over the years, made racist comments. Not the least of which is like, I was really surprised when I went up to uptown to eat in Harlem. People weren't all mofo, give me some tea. I mean, so
MFer, I want more iced tea.
yeah, and so I mean, is it possible to say, hey, that congresswoman's hair looks like James Brown's hair, and not be racist? Of course. I think so. I think, is it possible for me to say, like, hey, look at that John Denver looking guy? I don't know what the equivalent would be, but I think based on the context that's his first comment, that he can't really listen to what this black congresswoman is saying because he's obsessed with her hair. Yeah, I think it's racist.
Okay. And my other question was then, if, James Brown, he spent thousands of dollars on that hair, he chemically treated it. It cost a lot of money. I'm assuming she's doing the same, or she's wearing a weave. My second question was, is it cultural appropriation of whites and Asians when black people attempt to make their hair straight when they don't have the natural ability to do that?
Is that cultural appropriation of whites?
No, this is part of the complexity of the problem, is that, wearing for black women, and wearing your hair naturally might have in years past be considered unprofessional.
Well, let's stop dancing around here. Wait a second. Listen, here's the bottom line. Okay, are you aware of the history of black people in this country?
Yes, I'm aware of it.
Okay, are you aware of the history of white people in this country?
Definitely.
All right, so you're aware of the dynamic that's gone on since the history of the prior to the founding of this country, right? Do you think that implicates things, or do you think that things should be looked at in a complete vacuum?
Well, I think that, you make a good point with that, but in effect, it's just a comment about someone's hair at the end of the day, right?
Well, no, it's not just a comment. No. That's exactly the point. Listen, if I go and I punch a 4-year-old in the face, is that the same as a 4-year-old punching me in the face?
What kind of comparison is that, though, Sam? That's not a really good comparison.
No, it's a great comparison because there's a different power dynamic, and there's a history, and there's a context. No, there's a context. There's a difference. Okay. Forget child. If I go and punch someone, let's say, how much do you weigh?
80 kilos.
How much do you weigh in pounds?
Like 180.
Okay. So if I punch you in the face, do you think there's a difference between me punching you in the face? I've got some weight on you, versus you punching me in the face?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Even though we're doing the exact same thing. Why is that?
Well, here's the thing. I just want to go back to...
No, don't go back to anything. Just answer my question. Why is it different if I punch you in the face versus you punching me in the face?
Well, I would say it also goes back to how much training do you have in fighting?
I got some decent training. So how much of why is it different? I'm doing the exact same thing as you're doing to me. Why is it different? Because maybe I have training. Because maybe I have some weight on you. It's going to mean a different thing. Even though we're doing the exact same, we're doing the exact same thing. So you can't look at that in isolation. You need to look at the context. And I'm telling you, the context is such that it's not just a random person commenting on a random person's random hairdo.
And dismissing her based on that.
And that's, and if you can't understand that, then you're either dim enough not to understand anything, or you just willfully don't want to.
I can understand
because you can understand it. Why it would be the difference? Because
I said that, but I don't see how it's racist.
Excuse me. What's the difference between when I punch you in the face and when you punch me in the face? Other than the fact that it may be easy for me to do it.
It's a logical fallacy, Sam.
What's a logical fallacy?
You're playing with fallacies now, and you're making insane comparisons.
Sorry. No. I'm telling you that the context matters, that power dynamics matters, that history matters. All those things matter.
Yeah, history matters. You're right. Black people were treated very badly in this country. But I still don't see how making fun of someone's hair is racist.
Wait, can I just ask, you don't understand why Bill O'Reilly, listening to Maxine Waters say that and say, I couldn't hear what she was saying, I was distracted by her James Brown hair.
Well, wait a second. You see, when you say, I don't understand why making fun of someone's hair is racist, well, yeah, if you're just making fun of someone's hair in a vacuum, it's not racist. But this isn't a vacuum. This is Fox News, stated by a guy who has a history of making racial comments, talking about a congresswoman on a news program, supposedly analyzing what that person is saying. And the only comment is, I didn't even hear the words. I just saw her James Brown hair. Now, do you honestly want us to believe that you see no difference between just making fun of someone's hair being racist and that context I just gave you? Do you honestly want us to believe that?
Okay, can you answer my second question about cultural appropriation, though? I'd like to touch on that a little bit.
Do you understand? No, I did answer your question, because when I punch you in the face, I'm going to do a lot more damage to your face than you do to me. And that's because I'm stronger than you, I'm better trained than you, and all those things are important. So your punching me is not the same thing as me punching you. And so that's why that cultural appropriation argument, the cultural appropriation argument you're making is a logical fallacy. Right, but I've spent too much time on this. Feel free to call back, because I'd like to hear more from where you're coming from.
I will.
All right, bye-bye. I mean, it's good to talk to people like that. All right. Oh, geez, we're way overboard. All right, I'm sorry, folks. I can't take any more calls because I had to deal with that kid who's trying to argue about cultural appropriation to me.
You love it. You're sick.
It's nice to hear from people who have a slightly different perspective.
I like it too. I'm totally on board.
I mean, what would it be his ability to articulate on the phone if I punched him in the face versus my ability to articulate if he punched me in the face? That would be the difference. There's the cultural appropriation. How is that punch different? I don't know. All right, callers. Sorry, we don't have any more time for calls. We'll do 6 IMs. Matt.
S.
Please pick the letters. Don't fall for the Russian distraction. Hannity will guide you to the real problem in the country. I will check that out for tomorrow. Oh my God, South Padre Island. Remember what I said? When they're in power, it's all going to be about the culture. Kelly.
Oh.
Excuse me?
I lost my voice. L.
Launch. Wait, what happened to Lawn Chair Media? It just disappeared. Wait a second. Newberman. First, I am yada yada. Every time I hear about Trump and Russia, I feel discouraged because I know Nunes and Ryan and everyone else won't do lick about it. We need the media to keep up the pressure, but what will it yield us? There's Lawn Chair Media. Your Bernie Madoff reference gave me an idea on financial reform. We just need to stop being so PC and call it radical Jewish financial terrorism. But seriously, I get along with the Jews. None of them ever wanted me to say, MF or update. I want you to invest in my mutual fund. Matt.
K.
Ken and Chuck. Just as a point of reference, many of the Russian mafia, organized crime, and business oligarchs and KGB trained. Any business leader interest group knows this and is playing into their hands. Kelly.
B.
Bare hands. Random rush. Oh, I wanted to do that today and I forgot to. And the final IM of the day, Lawyer Matthew. Any comment on the Indie Mike email black hole? Yes, I don't want to get sucked into it, but they dragged me back in. See you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive.